Hi, everyone. This is Joey Busuttil, and welcome to the EUDAIMONIA Connection podcast. This has been going really well. I've been really enjoying meeting these fantastic people that are inspirational in their own lives, and now they're inspiring you. On today's show, I've got someone that I really love from my past, someone that I used to watch DJing in the Melbourne scene, and then she transitioned into becoming a soul healer. That is such a beautiful energy that she gives out. And I'm very excited to be introducing you all to Liz Millar. Hi, Liz. How are you?
Hi, Joey. I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for inviting me to
I'm so
join you today.
excited.
I'm thrilled.
So, do you want to tell our audience a little bit about you? Because I know that there's a lot of stuff that you want to share, and I think it's best if it comes from you.
Sure. Thank you. Well, many years ago, when I was still in school, I started DJing, and music has always been a very, very big and important influence in my life, and it shaped me in so many different ways. And I had a long career. I don't believe it's quite over yet, but for now, I'm not DJing actively as I once was, but I did that for about 35 years. Um, I also did radio, so broadcasting has been a big part of my background as well. I did community radio in Melbourne and in London for around 25 years. And I transitioned from DJ to sound healer in the mid 2000s. And that was a really huge shift for me in many ways. And in so many other ways, it wasn't a shift at all, because when you're a DJ, you're doing a lot of healing. It's just
I was going to say that I reckon you're a DJ still, but you're a spiritual DJ.
Yes.
You know, the bowls are the records.
Yeah, actually, before we end, I'll turn the camera around so you can see my collection behind me. So yeah, sound healing has been probably the guiding force for the last 15 years or so, and it's been an amazingly rewarding and yeah, personally transformative experience to have been through. That has allowed me to also show up in service to others in the way of being a soul guide, and having people come to me who are after vibrational therapies that include sound as well as crystal healing, working with different energy healing techniques, some of which are quite unusual or deeply esoteric, you could say, that not many other people are trained in. So I provide a very unique experience for those who feel drawn to my work and to my energy. These days, I'm also distributing some fantastic wellness tools that are basically frequency-based, and I have a business called Raising Your Frequency.
Wow, you're like on fire, aren't you? You're like doing. You've got, you're healing the world, and do you feel, because this show is about fulfillment? I guess, can we start there? So I want you to share with us what your interpretation of joy is. How do you know that you're in joy?
Well, number one, my heart feels open and expansive and free. Freedom and joy to me are almost equal. I can't have joy without freedom, and I can't be free without joy. So I love feeling as though I'm in a flow with my own higher purposes, and to be very clear about those things. And of course, being of service through allowing those expressions to come through, whatever it is that I'm doing, however I feel that I want to show up in any given moment, is deeply attached to my feelings of joy.
Yeah, I love it. Because the thing is that I guess you also know when something isn't joyful. You know how a lot of people just do things when they know it's not good? And what do you think is the thing that causes you to know that?
There's just a feeling of something being good and right. It's like, when we look up at the sun and we feel those rays, it feels good and right.
Yeah.
And so that's the feeling that I want to be feeling.
Yeah. And so
in
if you don't
everything
get that,
that I
if you
do.
don't get that feeling, then you know that you got to either step away or not be part of that, right?
Yeah, and generally that feeling is either an expansion or a contraction.
Right.
And, we can feel it here in our gut. We
Mm.
can feel open, ready to receive from our environment, from other people, from our relationships, our careers. And then we can also have those moments where we just instantly have that reaction of, I'm going to pause for a moment because we're such sensitive feeling beings,
Mm.
and we're getting so much information on subtle energetic levels. I trust that, and I actually practiced experimenting this. This it's a training that I put myself through, where I would listen in every moment. I did it for about 3 months continuously until it just became part of my natural rhythm. But I would literally just ask my heart, what feels good to you right now?
Yeah.
Or my heart would tell me,
Yeah.
go over to the window and look out at that beautiful scene and just enjoy it
Yeah.
for 2 minutes.
It's
And
so,
without
yeah.
question, just do it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's so simple, but yet people still find that hard.
I know.
I'm gonna, because this is all about a series of questions. So if I move on, don't take that I'm cutting
No,
you
no,
off.
no,
It's
it's
just that,
totally fine.
because I know that you've gone from DJing to spiritual. So can you try and think back to what was the most prolific thing that someone said to you that allowed you to shift? Do you recall that person or that place that you would have been in that made you go, this is my home. This is what I'm meant to be.
Gosh, there's actually been so many, but I think let's go back to the very first one. I was in a club in London in 1988, and I had a moment of very clear knowing that I and everybody else in that place were one. Um, it was a knowing beyond any kind of conceptual understanding of it. It was in my body, it was in my heartbeat. I just knew that we were one. And
Mm.
that completely changed the game for me. And it led me on a path of wanting to know what the answers were around that.
Yeah, I mean, and that really symbolizes that whole feeling of one is, I think, a very important thing because it takes away the idea of being selfish, right?
Yeah,
Because everyone's
that's
connected,
right.
so you have empathy, you have love, and you remove judgment and all that sort
Yeah.
of stuff. Which I guess leads to my next question, and that is, because you are out there and people know you and you're quite well known. I mean, I love you. What do you think what is the one thing that people around you would disagree in regards to what you believe versus what they believe? What is the main thing that you feel that people go, no, I don't agree with that, if anything? But because you see the world in a different perspective. So have you noticed anything at all that you believe in that you just own and honor for yourself, but you don't need to get validation from anyone?
Oh my gosh, I could talk about this for days. But in this moment,
Mm.
I don't know how to answer that question. Uh, well, yeah, it's actually such a huge question that kind of requires me to reflect on that a little bit more than I think we actually have time for
Sure,
today.
that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
again, can you maybe describe what you're feeling? Because you don't have to answer it. Because I think that you've just the way you're acting is showing us that there is such an impact on it takes bravery, I believe, to be convicted in what you believe and not to let And if you think about COVID and all that stuff, we've seen how people have been arguing and all that, and it takes conviction to stand tall and say, no, I'm going to honor my spirituality, or I'm going to honor this. Is that what you're sort of feeling, that something there is telling you that there's a bigger story for you?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And certainly that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
And again, it's such a huge topic. Where do I begin?
Yeah.
But yes, I definitely can speak to the fact that I have my inner knowings about what the energetic dynamics are that are at play, that are really about what I really feel is that there is there's a psychological war happening right now, or there's a war on our consciousnesses right now that's actually very successful in dividing people.
Yeah. And it's been going on for a long time, and we haven't
It has
really.
been
And because you're, you know, because I look at you as a person living in the eudaimonia, in the fulfillment world, do you feel that people are trying to just, you know, do you feel that thing that you believe in, they're trying to pull you away from it or convince you that you're maybe wrong? Or
Oh
do
my
you
goodness,
feel,
yes,
yeah?
of course, 100%.
Mm.
But I learned a long time ago not to listen to those voices and to really trust that my own inner voice was my highest authority.
Okay. Because I'm just wondering if that happened to you when you decided to leave DJing and become spiritual. Did you get that?
No, because I
No?
never, no, it was never as clear cut as that. I was always spiritual. I was always
Yes.
connected to myself from a very, very, very young age, literally from my first memories. I knew that what we were experiencing here was not what we were being shown.
Yes.
That wasn't the whole picture.
Yes.
And so I've spent my entire life pursuing,
yeah.
you know.
And I think that's also
inquiry.
given the audience, it's given the listeners an opportunity to understand the depth of the question. So when people feel this thing that's not right, a lot of people give up. So what you're literally saying is you've got to, it's so big that you couldn't even answer the question. You've got to like trust that this is you have to honor that yourself, right? It's not about what other people are doing. It's not about what's trendy. It's all about what you, and I sort of have to admit that the last 5 years I've been doing that because of my, you know, I had to get injured and have a medical problem to do that. But I now feel that I understand a lot more. And I just wish I got injured or got hurt like 8 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
100%.
so for you, how do you define the difference between living and existing?
Wow. Okay. So living and existing are different because of the levels of connection that you have to everything and everyone and to yourself. Connection is absolutely everything.
So which one is the connection the living or is it the existing or is it both?
It's
Everything.
existing is, yeah. Existing is just existing. But living is having connections that allow you to feel like you belong. That you have people in your life that love and care about you and vice versa. The connections that nourish you to be better, to do better, to rise, you know, to lift your vibration. And that can look at a million different ways. But I certainly know that when people are feeling disconnected from themselves and disconnected from the world around them, that this is the number one cause of mental illness, depression, sickness, and drug abuse.
Yeah. And, you know, again, the reason why I asked you is because I know without even talking to you that you are living in a world that you honor, right? And this is sort of off the list, but like, why do you think people ignore what's around them? Why are people afraid to do what you do? Because you and I know, I mean, like, I know you've done it for way longer than me, but I now know that it's so beautiful to be in a space where you don't have to worry about the noise. I mean, like, what do you think is the main reason? You know, do you believe it is that distraction that's being created by a system that's pulling them away from looking? What's your take on that?
Yes, that's part of it, but really everybody gets there in their own timing.
Okay.
And that's according to their own soul's purposes and learnings and what they've agreed to experience before they came into this incarnation. I truly believe that we make agreements and we incarnate into the family lines and into the situations that will serve our souls in the very best ways. I know that can seem like a very general statement, and yes, probably it is a very general statement. It doesn't apply in every single case. However, there are certain agreements that we come in, and it's all in accordance with the growth that our soul wants to have.
Yeah.
And so we just don't have, I feel, you know, bringing judgments into why people are doing things and in which ways. We can't know what's in the best interests of that soul, but we can we can certainly have compassion and love and
I
all of the.
I just want to hang out with you all the time because your energy is so. That's what I love. Is that this is what I want the world. I mean, it's so beautiful to know that there is a place where people aren't judging and all that. And I'm guessing that you still also have normal. You're a human. You have normal stuff going on. So, what do you think you do differently to others in regards to what you want to be and feel?
Okay, so every day
what's the Liz Miller specialty?
Every day is a living meditation. It's a living, breathing, walking meditation in gratitude and knowing that I'm connected to a higher source that is looking out for me, that loves me, and that wants me to thrive. And I start my day with an intention. I ask, to let this day be guided by my higher self for my greatest good and the greatest good of all. And so starting my day in that way just reframes my human and my ego to recognize that I'm wanting to show up as a pure conduit of a divine activity that can come through me in my expressions. And so as I do that, it also allows me to recognize that I'm the one steering my ship. Yes, I'm the conduit, but I'm also very intentional about steering my own ship, and that's through what I would like to intend through my day. And so lately, probably, as a running commentary in the background all the time is how can I hold the vibration through my being and through my actions, through my words, of the timeline that I came here to live in, of the timeline that I want all of us to experience that's the highest and best possible, where we're all free, we're all healthy, we're all abundant, we're all doing things that really light up our hearts, and we're feeling fulfilled at the end of our day and deeply grateful for our lives.
Wow.
Can I be the living embodiment of that? And how does that look? How does that feel? And as I do the things to generate those feelings, like, okay, what would I feel like every day if that was my world? I wake up every day feeling deeply grateful and excited about my day.
And you incorporate that in when you also, I mean, I know you're going to say yes, but I know a lot of people listening will say, but what happens when I'm having a bad day? What happens when things are bad? Are you still grateful for that?
100%.
Yes.
Because it's your perspective. Our greatest challenges are also the sources of our greatest breakthroughs.
Exactly.
Just as you said at the beginning, right? And we can't know what happiness is if we don't know what sorrow is. Yeah. We absolutely have to we live in a world of duality. These are the laws that govern our experience here. So it's important to recognize that even when we're challenged, and God knows I've been deeply challenged a lot, that those challenges, if I'm courageous enough to face them with a sense of, well, what's the gift in this for me? What is the gold that I can mine out of this terrible moment? And whether it's picking myself up and saying, well, tomorrow's another day, I'm going to forgive this, and I'm going to forgive myself, and I'm going to move on. If that's the gold that I mine out of one moment, or is it something else? If we can have the openness and the capacity to just ask ourselves, can we stretch ourselves in this moment in a new way? Can we be more flexible? Can we be more forgiving? Can we be more compassionate? Can we be more patient? These are important questions, I think, that take us to a better state pretty quickly. We don't have to sit in it for too long.
Yeah.
And also being able to recognize that if I am sad, that I don't have to instantly go and reach for something to soothe me that's outside of myself, that I can actually sit in those feelings and really let myself feel sad.
I think that's a big point. That whole thing with people trying to avoid the negative stuff. I sort of have this connection to the fact that social media has made it more intense because a lot of things on there are good. And so some people find it hard to understand what bad is because they're focusing on good, but you really can't connect, like you're saying, until you know, both sides. So if you were like an angel and you had the ability to whisper in a newborn baby's ear, what would you tell that baby? What advice would you give a newborn about their journey on this earth?
Stay in your heart no matter what.
Yeah, okay. You are an angel anyway, so you probably do. Anyway, so let's get to the other extreme. This is the last question. I could talk to you for hours, but you know, because I'm going to ask you back on the show. But like, go back now. I want you to go into the future, and you're 80 years old, and I want you just to give us a sort of connection to what you believe you have learned or what you've experienced from your life at 80.
To be brave enough to speak my truth, even if it makes other people feel uncomfortable, that it's not my responsibility to have to make other people feel better by dimming my own light.
Yeah. Liz, thank you so much I mean, like, that wasn't that bad, was it? You know, I think the questions that I picked were perfect for you. So like, it's, you know, thank you for opening up your heart and your soul to us to show us, you know, how you live a fulfilled life. And like, you know, if I can ask you maybe one little more question, like, what do you feel is coming up for you? What is your next thing? Do you have a vibe of where you're going?
Well, I don't know exactly, and that's part of the magic. I'm very open to seeing what wants to come into my field. Many things have been offered to me recently that feel amazing, but it's actually been a great exercise in learning discernment and what is really my highest excitement, and going after what is absolutely my highest excitement. So far, the work that I'm doing right now is my highest excitement. I want to help people get the tools into their lives that are available to us in the 21st century that make life so much better for them and us, all of us. So that's where I'm at. That's what feels the most expansive to me right now. And certainly anyone out there who wants to reach out to me and ask me about those things, I'm very open.
Yeah, and I'll make sure everything is going to be listed below. But before we go, can you quickly show us your collection?
Oh, absolutely.
Look at this, everyone.
Just turn around here. There it is.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
So there's actually
you know what? I'm so regretful that I gave all my records away. I so hate that I did that.
You know, I did that with most of my 80s collection and I never got over it. And so after that, I never sold another record.
Yeah.
They're the soundtrack to my life.
Does music play a part of your eudaimonia? Did you find fulfillment in just listening to music?
Music is always it's my first go-to when I need to lift my frequency, or when I want to just let some stuff out. Dancing and listening to music are one of the quickest ways to raise your frequency.
Yeah. Liz Millar, thank you so much. I'm so blessed to have had you on the show. And I hope everyone listening got something wonderful out of that. That it's not complicated. All you need to do is just listen to yourself and find what you want. So thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Darling, it's been an honor. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Joey.
Thank you. You've been listening to the EUDAIMONIA Podcast Connection today. Now, don't forget, please hit subscribe and like so you can get a new podcast every Wednesday. And the podcast is really just designed for you to meet people just like ourselves, but people that live inspirational lives. So make sure that you listen and take on all the energy and all the beautiful stuff that they pass on, because we are trying to connect, like Liz said. So till next time, everyone, namaste, and we'll see you soon. Bye.